And bad governance protests ongoing in Nigeria took a new twist on Monday after President Bola Tinubu had on Sunday addressed the protesters in a nationwide broadcast that appeared to have infuriated a larger numbers of the protesters. Some of the protesters, mostly the ones in the northern parts of the country, could be seen hoisting Russian flags and calling on President Vladimir Putin of Russia to come to their aid. The Nigeria Chief of Defense Staff issued a statement shortly after meeting with President Bola Tinubu on Monday and said the president warned against flying foreign flags in Nigeria, adding, "Those who have hoisted foreign flags in Nigeria have committed treason." Shortly after issuing the statement, some persons claimed the president himself used Russia flag during the nationwide broadcast, describing the second flag beside President Bola Tinubu during the broadcast as Russia flag. Former presidential spokesperson, Reno Omokri, in a statement on Tuesday, said the second flag beside the president was Nigeria Armed Forces flag and it was never Russia flag. Nigeria Police Force few hours ago issued a stern warning against any protester displaying foreign flags in the country, adding over 90 persons have been arrested in connection with the display of foreign flags in Nigeria, including the tellers and their sponsors. Reno Omokri in his words said, "For the avoidance of doubt, President Tinubu did not fly a Russian flag yesterday during his broadcast to the nation. The flag you see to his left, which enemies of the country purport to be a Russian flag, actually represents the combined colors of the Nigerian Armed Forces. The colors red, berry blue and light sky blue represent the different forces, the Army, Navy and the Air Force. The Russian flag is similar to our Armed Forces flag. However, it is almost the reverse of our flag in that whereas our Armed Forces flag is red, navy blue and light sky blue, the flag of the Russian Federation begins with a white color, then a blue and ends with a red. Another difference between the Nigerian Armed Forces flag and the Russian flag is that whereas the third color of the Nigerian Armed Forces flag is light sky blue, the first color on the Russian Federation flag is white. Please note the difference and do not let anyone gaslight you into hoisting and waving Russian flags on the mistaken belief that it is the same flag flown by our President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces during his speech yesterday." Nigeria Chief of Defense Staff, CDS, General Christopher Mustafa had on Monday declared that individuals flying Russian flags in Nigeria have committed a treasonable offense. The defense chief made the declaration while speaking to newsmen after an emergency security meeting with President Bola Tinubu at Aso Rock. He vowed that the law would catch up with such persons. Mustafa said the actions of those calling for a coup, adding that the military has embraced democracy and would never allow regime change. He said, "We wanted to brief Mr. President on the situation on ground, and we know that since the riot has started, all the security agencies, you can see all of us together. Initially, when the riot started, they said it was a peaceful one, but we have realized that there are individuals that are willing to take advantage of it to cause mayhem. And we can see clearly what has happened since it has commenced. Criminals have taken over, a lot of looting taking place, stealing and all sorts happening. And besides, all of us have seen it where foreign flags have been flown within the sovereignty of Nigeria, and that is totally unacceptable. We are warning in clear terms, and the president has also said we should convey this, that we will not accept any individual flying any foreign flag in Nigeria. That is treasonable offense, and it will be viewed and treated as such. So nobody shall allow himself to be used by any individual." Also, the issue of coups. Nigeria is a sovereign nation. Nigeria is a democratic nation. All security agencies are here to defend democracy and ensure that democracy continues to strive. We will not accept anyone pushing or taking any action, seemingly or for whatever reason, to want to push for any change of government. Democracy is what we stand for. Democracy is what we'll continue to defend. The Nigeria Police Force, in a statement issued by Olumuyiwa Adejobi, the force spokesperson few hours ago, said the force has issued a stern warning against the display of foreign flags during protests and calls for a military takeover, categorizing such actions as treasonable felonies under Nigerian law. This follows a wave of violent protests, particularly in Bauchi, Kano, Kaduna, and Katsina states, where protesters brandished foreign flags. Ongoing investigations reveal that protest organizers in the states mentioned above are luring innocent children into participating in these unpatriotic and criminal acts. Over 90 suspects have been arrested, including tellers who sold the flags and their sponsors. Efforts are underway to apprehend others who sponsored the production of the flags and fueled these treasonable acts. The display of foreign flags and calls for a military takeover constitutes a clear treasonable offense, revealing the motives of protest organizers to destabilize Nigeria's democratic government. This aligns with actionable intelligence on the tactics of fifth columnists and known state actors exploiting economic hardship protests to further their nefarious goals. Tensions from the ongoing protests have eased following President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's address on August 4, 2024. However, some groups persist in subversive campaigns in the form of violent and unlawful protests, characterized by the destruction of public infrastructure and private property, looting, display of foreign flags, and calls for a military takeover. These individuals and groups will be treated as subversive agents and charged accordingly. The Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Adeolu Egbetokun, has directed Deputy Inspectors General of Police for the Northwest and Northeast Zones, Diggs Bala Chiroma, and Bello Makwashi, to take charge of operations in the states within the two geopolitical zones where subversive campaigns are ongoing under the guise of protests. They are tasked with stabilizing the situation and preventing further violence in the affected states. The Nigeria Police Force reiterates that the use of foreign flags during protests and openly calling for a military takeover of the government is a capital offense under Nigerian law. The police cautions Nigerian youths to be wary of individuals and groups turning protests into business ventures, funded by local or foreign sponsors aiming to destabilize the country. Evidence shows that these sponsors have paid significant sums to exploit the hardship protests, brainwashing and misleading innocent children into aiding this campaign against the government. The Nigeria Police Force salutes Nigerians who have refused to participate in and indeed spoke out against the ill-timed protest out of sheer patriotism and belief in the government's genuine efforts to put the country on the path of economic recovery and growth. We also acknowledge the patriotism of those who peacefully participated in the protest but withdrew when they turned violent, and those who heeded the president's call to embrace dialogue by withdrawing from the protests. The NPF remains committed to maintaining peace, protecting the nation's heritage, and working with the public to ensure the safety and stability of Nigeria.
Sazuwa Connedo, bringing you the news in a more digital way.